Hey everyone, welcome back to today's episode of Purposeful Podcasting, where we are revisiting our interviews from the Savour Summit. My name is Crystal, and today I get to feature the opportunity that I had to interview Wendy about the importance of VIA character strengths in personal and professional development. So in this interview, Wendy shares her transition from 30 years in meeting planning to coaching. And we really emphasize her passion for transformation in general. The discussion highlights the VIA Character Strengths Assessment, a tool we use with our clients to identify individual strengths and lesser strengths to kind of help give them the support that best serves them and plays into their strengths. We explore how understanding these strengths aids in setting realistic goals. It enhances personal growth and it improves business strategies. We stress the significance of adapting business models to align with individual strengths for better outcomes. Practical examples illustrate how character strengths influence client coaching and partnerships. So we really emphasize the importance again in these sessions of why self-awareness and continuous assessment is helpful, not just only personally, but professionally as well. And then we talk about applying character strengths and making smarter business decisions and just enhance your overall well-being. Because if you're banging your head against a wall constantly in business, trying to do things that you're just not good at, then that's where you have the misalignment and all of the other problems that we tend to have that lead to burnout, overwhelm, all those really common buzzwords that we hear as entrepreneurs. But if we can play into our strengths and we can learn how to either strengthen some lesser strengths, lean into some continuing education or growth, or delegate those things out, we all end up happier business owners. So without further ado, please enjoy this interview with Wendy.
Welcome to Purposeful Podcasting. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Crystal. This podcast is meant to share how we and other entrepreneurs bring together purpose and passion to leverage profit in our businesses.
We are shining a light on adventure-loving, purpose-driven, action-minded, authentic, and rebellious entrepreneurs.
Just like us.
So join us as we talk about business and life and everything in between.
Welcome back, everybody, to this session of Savour Summit, a powerful woman's guide to savoring her life. And I get to interview Wendy for this wonderful session. And today we're talking about VIA character strengths. And so the whole focus of today is really self-reflection. Why does it matter? Why does personal growth matter? Why does knowing yourself matter? And VIA character strength is something we actually use with our clients. And it's one of the first things when you become a private client of ours, we have you take this test. So welcome, Wendy. I suppose you could give us an introduction to yourself, though. One guest who needs no introduction, the star of this show and the co-host of this wonderful event.
But I should introduce myself anyway.
You should introduce yourself anyway.
Hi, I'm Wendy Guth, co-founder of Serendipitous Rebel, co-founder of our podcast and all of the things wonderful. So I will ask myself this question, like, what got me here today?
Yes.
I spent about 30 years as a meeting planner in the corporate / nonprofit higher education world. And I realized that I got into it because I love to travel, and it allowed me to travel a lot all over. I'm also a very project-oriented person, meaning you do an event, you evaluate it, you make notes for the next one, and it goes away and you move on to the next one. So I very much am a project-oriented person. I also realized that I love creating space for others to transform. And meetings are very much like that. And I loved the transition into coaching because it's a little bit more hands-on. It's more than just, is there a pad and a pen? on the place of the person who's learning, or does the microphone work, but very much more hands-on. And I did have, so in, what was it, 2016, I lost my job. That was like an incredible transition period, pivotal moments happened. Then lost my job, ended up at the time, my boyfriend, I was a single mom at the time, and getting engaged and transitioning into the whole military spouse world, lived overseas, traveled overseas, and was looking for a career a passion that would allow me flexibility. So I got into travel, but I realized I love transformational travel. Again, it's creating space for people to transform, but it didn't necessarily scratch that particular itch that coaching did. And we actually, because of summits we did for travel advisors, and I guess they started out with military spouses who were interested in travel. I think it was the first one, something along those lines.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the military spouse connection that brought us together.
Yeah.
Oh yes, Wendy, you should meet. Still, Crystal, you should meet Wendy. Yes,
exactly. And Crystal was also super helpful with me in terms of just maneuvering through that whole world. And she still is. Yay. But, the interesting thing is that I'm a lifelong learner. And interestingly enough, that is my number one via character strength. And so falling into this world, I was like, I needed certifications. And I needed them as much for, actually probably more for the fact that I love learning than for the fact that I needed a ton of credentials to justify who I was. But I got into a certification program, and this was the first thing they did. Mm-hmm. And they immediately directed. And actually, what's interesting is I have to say that every single, and I'm going to say this as controversially as I can, reputable certification program that I have taken or has required me to take the strengths assessment. And it also may include a few of the other ones that are out there as well. But this one, I love because every exercise outside of that has been, look at this list of values and circle the ones that mean the most to you. And I realized, it's not a bad thing, but some of those are aspirational. I aspire to leadership. But when I do the assessment, which is the assessment even more than a test, when I do the assessment, I'm like, that's not really a strong suit on my part.
And so when you do the via character strength assessment, when we have our clients do it, I love that differentiator because I think the first time you and I ever did a strengths not test, but exercise, I guess, would be, because it was not a test. It wasn't.
Yes.
It was an exercise. I think the exercise had us just list out character strengths. And we were like, what was that?
Yeah.
And which I think is an invaluable thing as partners to do. And I think, we looked at a list and we wrote down, hey, these are some strengths. These are some values or attributes.
Yes.
That we think embody us. But in reality, especially in that particular meeting, in retrospect, it was not actually our strength. It was the things we aspired to be.
Exactly.
And maybe that is a great way to set goals or to continue learning or do some inner work perhaps, but it certainly doesn't give you any baseline knowledge of what they are now. So
exactly. And also what I love about this, if I can just, it's basically there are 24 character strengths that according to, and this is based on scientific research, these are the positive traits that are identified in positive psychology. So there's 24 of them. They're considered to be universal, meaning if you were living in a tribe in Papua New Guinea or in a high-rise in Manhattan, the traits are still the same. The need for creativity, curiosity, bravery, love, all those sorts of things. They cross all cultures. And that's what I think is so incredibly cool about it. And the bottom line is these are meant to contribute to your well-being. And there's 24 of them, and they're broken into 6 pretty broad categories, but there's 24 of them. And when you take the assessment, you're ranked. And so you have the top 5 are considered your top strengths, and the bottom 5 are considered your lesser strengths. And what is funny about it, not funny, but a lot of the things that come up in the lesser strengths, at least for me, and actually for many of our clients, is that's what they aspire to. And so when you put that down as, oh my gosh, this is my value, yet it doesn't come maybe naturally to you, you get really frustrated and really, oh my gosh, how can't I do this? I look at you and I'm like, I know you're going to ask me something.
I had a light bulb moment. And do you think that when we look at clients and we look at their strengths, and I know we're like taking a moment to like pause, because we run this assessment on every client and we go over it with them. We identify the top 5 and the lesser 5. Do you think the lesser 5 is behind the reason as to why they hire a coach?
That's interesting. I think it depends really on what their top, it depends. It's situational. I think that depending, for those of us who end up as certain strengths, whether it's learning, whether it's curiosity, whether it's even perspective, social intelligence, certain things will bubble to the top. And I know I need this. I know I need this. So who can help me? And I think also when you have certain, based on your strengths mix, especially at the top, you'll realize that what comes at the bottom, you really have 2 options. You can either, and this is absolute legitimate, you can ignore it. Let's just talk about like things like perseverance and self-regulation. Those are 2 of my bottom ones. How does that come out? Let's just say we hire a bookkeeper who guarantees that we are on the straight and narrow when it comes to spending on, there's no of those, bird. None of it. We try to keep the, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting what it's called?
The left and the right limits.
No, anyway, it'll come to me sometime in this interview and I'll pop in and say it. It's the bird. I'm seeing a bird, now I have to buy it. Yeah.
Right in shiny object syndrome.
Thank you very much. It's the shiny object. So having someone in place who is able to say, I don't think that's good right now. You can't afford it, or your money is better spent elsewhere, is fantastic. And that's also for perseverance, because it means that crunching week in and week out is not something I like to do. So I hire someone. But it's interesting. So I can totally ignore a lesser strength. And also, just to back up a second, I like to do this definitely once a year, but also every 6 months. I think you need to have a recheck, because there can be subtle changes. And all of a sudden you realize maybe you're either ignoring or working on a certain strength, and you're like, I want to change that, or I'm overusing certain strengths. Like, I know I can overuse love of learning. I could be like, oh, I've got to take 25 courses all at once. Really impractical. And that's overusing that. Or even perspective, where feeling like really I'm leaning into a perspective, I'm overleaning. Oh, I understand, therefore. So things, things like that. So rather than just, you can ignore, or you can look at the list and say, you know what, I'm just going to drill into one of them. You can't do all of them. I'm going to drill into one of them, and I'm going to see how I can work on that. For me, one of my lesser strengths, say, is leadership. Okay, what can I do? I could work on getting my face out there in social media, or whatever I feel is an appropriate action to work on. And I can work on that and see, how do I feel comfortable? Is this something I want to continue? It doesn't, when I say energetically, do I have the energy and the resources to work on that? So it's really an interesting thing. And also I found is that when times are tough, you really lean into your top strengths. I look at my top strength as love of learning and then humor. And when times are bad, I'm known to make some really bad jokes.
Yeah.
And to be just really some dark humor. But for me, that helps me get through hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. That's really okay. And to lean into knowing what they are and lean into them, I think is so important. And again, you have the ability to, you can't, when I say ignore some things like a bookkeeper, you have to know that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we look at these things with our clients, how do you think, can you give some examples of how we've used the character strengths with clients as far as when we look at these things, does it change the way we approach working with our clients?
Oh, that's a great question. I think a little bit it does. I think it does because it paints a really holistic picture of clients. And we also, and this is especially true when we work with partners.
Yes.
Yeah. And the beauty actually of the character strengths is that you can, or we can, take both of their assessments and create a report of 2 or more people. And to be honest, I love doing this for families as well. This really is, it's a beautiful picture because you can see things that I think like a client who's really creative and the other person is really into, I'm trying to think, I think it was like self-regulation. Holy cannoli. It actually helps to have a coach who can be like, let's take a little bit of creativity and a little bit of self-regulation, meld it together and see what we can create that is comfortable for both parties. Because if you have one party that's ideate and the other party's, we need resolution with, it can go down an unhealthy path for the partnership that way. So I think that I think that's probably a good example. Also, when you look at it, and if you know that a person is fed by teamwork, yet they're a solopreneur, that's a tough one. Yeah. That's a really tough one. And sometimes working with a coach can give them the teamwork that they need. Being part of groups, we together and separately are part of like entrepreneurial groups that also can feed, because you can do joint projects, you can do joint events. There's things that you can do that feed that need. But I think ultimately looking at a holistic picture of yourself is really what is so important. And the interesting thing is there are 24 of these strengths, character strengths. Yet for 2 people to have the exact same composition is next to impossible. Yeah. And this is one of the most beautiful ways of saying, wow, I am so unique. I am so unique. I am one of a kind. And I think it's a really cool thing also to share with your clients, with your customers, whatever constituency that you work with, because this is like a stamp of honor, I think. This is who I am.
And I think it gives, when I think about when we work with clients, or even, let's take even for ourselves, because we did it as a partnership, and I know your character strengths and you know mine, it is great for me to remind myself, this is the way Wendy thinks. This is the way.
Exactly.
This is the way that you are perceiving this information. You're looking at this from this lens. And ultimately I hold a lot of value with your opinions on most things, but more so when you are really leaning into your strengths and you are looking at things with perspective, when you are looking at things through your lens of learning, because Wendy has just 1,000 certifications, I swear to you. But you come at things with so much expertise that you're able to look at this big picture thing. It makes me remind myself that, hey, that is not my strength. That is actually Wendy's strength. That back here sometimes.
That's really interesting because I think that I do the same thing. And I'll be like, oh no, that's your bailiwick. It's totally not mine. And it's a really interesting piece of information that really, I think, sheds a terrific light on how we can work together, how we can also play off of each other, and how we can be really successful. And and with a definition of success that's broader than just money. Yeah.
Do you feel like we have created, because you and I have worked together with several different business models, right?
Yes.
I think that we've worked as colleagues in one model, like as a service business model, is what I would call like our travel agency businesses. We have run a membership model. We've done a version of group coaching. Now we do just one-on-one coaching with clients. You feel like knowing our strengths and getting really invested in our strengths and factoring our strengths in has led us to a better business model that works for us?
Oh, without a doubt. Absolutely, without a doubt. Because I think that having the information allows us to definitely know what doesn't work. And I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I'll put it out there. A membership model for us is like the oral surgery without Novocaine. And that's for a lot of reasons. And it has to do with, I think, how we work and how we, and again, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I think that fits.
You know me really well. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that the model that we have created is really based on flexibility and the ability and curiosity. And it's interesting because we both share really, I think, really key critical strengths. Perspective, which I would probably say you probably have some influence over that moving up in my ranking. I don't know that I had a lot of perspective in the past, or it was beaten down. But perspective and curiosity, those sorts of things lend themselves to a partnership in a business that is fluid and flexible. And I'll say we don't consider pivoting to be a dirty word at all. Completely. Actually, I think that if we're not spending, if I'm not spending a ridiculous amount of time leaving Boxer messages with ideas that some of them are crazy, we could do this, we could do that. And then you're like, demon baby. Yeah, it's very true. There's a demon baby list somewhere. But I think that those are the things that feed us. And I have never, this week you were all geeked out about data and Facebook ads. And I'll say the energy was contagious. I didn't understand one word of any of this stuff, but the energy was absolutely contagious. And now for me to go, I'm going to go ideate more, which I did.
With me more Boxer messages about it.
Exactly. And so I think that was a very long-winded answer to a question that really, yes, I think that the ability to know thyself, because you can't sell thyself unless you know thyself.
Oh, I love that. And I think that when you're a solopreneur, you wear so many different hats in your business.
Yes.
If you wear all the hats.
Yeah.
Business. How do you think knowing your character strengths allows you to balance those hats better?
So I do think, again, it depends. It's situational. It depends on what your made your primary strengths are, the super strengths, if you want to call it, knowing what they are, because sometimes, and I have seen super strengths that are not necessarily balanced. And actually, that's also a perfect opportunity to work with a coach such as us in terms of how do you work through your strengths so that you can incorporate balance. One of the things that I love doing, I know, is to incorporate the character strengths into our Savour model, which is my own way of making data. But by doing that, you're able to see, you know what, I really don't unwind with self-care. Okay, so what can I do in terms of my, say, heavy-duty leadership and heavy-duty, more of the, say, business-type character strengths? How can I incorporate that? And there's a lot of great ways of doing that if you are a solopreneur. And it could be everything from realizing that if you get out every day and take a walk for 30 minutes, you're going to absolutely recharge your brain. Yeah. And it's worth, you run, you do Pilates, I row, though that time just is absolutely, it's earth-shaking. Absolutely earth-shaking to me. The amount of, really, it's productive. It's absolutely productive to do that. And I don't think that people necessarily see that. If bravery is one of those things, being brave really is taking risks and challenges. And that is stepping out of your comfort zone. And I don't think people necessarily even just realize the things that you can do that cover savoring your life.
Yeah, I think that when we look at these things through the lens of Savour, which we do all things, right? It really is quickly identifying where the gaps are with clients.
Yes.
And really
absolutely.
Quickly understanding most clients come to us because they're burnt out, overwhelmed, stuck, decision fatigue, need to get these things done.
Yep.
And they are feeling all those feelings, whether it's about their marketing or about their systems or their tech. Usually they identify it in what they would like to consider like a logical, practical way. But but the feelings and the emotions are all the same. And the solutions really come down to a lot of the things. How do we prevent burnout and decision fatigue? And it's unwinding with self-care and ritualizing gratitude and celebration. Understanding very quickly with a client via a very scientific tool, like via character strengths, which you have now identified into the Savour model, really lets us say, okay, very similar to the wheel of life, right?
Exactly.
These are gaps that we have in our system. You naturally are strong at, maybe people naturally are brave. So stepping out of their comfort zone, they'll take risks all the live long day. But they are like burnt out because they're not taking time. I think that was me. But to be honest, I sucked at self-care. I still have to be very conscious of it. But just understanding those pieces of it. And I guess that's where, when we work with clients, that's where the coaching comes into. It's identifying these things from an objective third-party perspective on you and your business to say, hey, and I like that you call them, why do you call them lesser strengths and not just the thing I suck at? Because like my bottom strength,
because you don't necessarily, first of all, we never suck at anything. These are strengths. So they're not, these are just considered ones that are not as strong as other ones that you have. Oh my God, we never say they suck. And it's not that you're good and bad. It's just, where do you excel and where do you either need a boost or need to ignore and find another way. It's not that you can totally, like I said, it's not that you can totally ignore perseverance. It's just how do you respond best in terms of that particular area is what I'm trying to say. And it's interesting because when I look at some of these, a lot of it has to do with, now I'm going to get really nerdy. It's a nervous system response. When I think of my lesser strengths, and I'm looking at them right now, if anything's going to get that pinch and tweak in my stomach, it actually really is, ooh, I'm super excited about learning, or ooh, I'm so excited to be curious today, or something along those lines. And it's, oh God, I have to forgive someone.
It's my last strength.
And actually, it's not mine, but it's interesting. Our 5 lesser strengths are even more intertwined than our top ones.
Which is why we're very good at identifying what we need help.
But the thing also is that forgiveness, for example, is something that I desperately want to do, and I will work hard. I will actually exert a tremendous amount of energy to work on that one. Again, not so much perseverance, because I know, one, I have a business partner who holds me accountable. I also have coaches who hold me accountable. I have put together some structure and framework that assists me in persevering and those sorts of things. I don't have to exert a tremendous amount of energy on that one. And I think it's really, the other big thing is, when times are good, you can pick and choose. If in your mind times are not good, lean into your higher strengths, lean into those super strengths. Because I know that, for example, during the pandemic, that's where the love of learning came in. I went a little crazy with certifications, but it helped me really dig into my purpose. It helped me as a tool to get out of bed in the morning, all those things at a time where I was probably one of the lower times in my life, just because who's traveling when you're in the middle of a pandemic kind of thing. And it was existential. And I know that people, you have these existential times at all sorts of periods in your life, whether it's an international pandemic or whatever. But having these tools in the palm of your hand, knowing what they are. I literally have an image where I have them written. I know what my strengths are, and it's there. And if I have to glue it to my mirror in the bathroom, so be it. I actually don't, but I have it on a sticker in my planner. Whatever it is, you lean into these. And I like the idea, and I do, and I made a note of a couple things, is that we actually have like the wheel of life, but we have a wheel of savor.
Yeah.
It just needs to be made. It just needs to be pretty, which I don't also do. I don't make things pretty. You, on the other hand, very much have very high on your, it's the appreciation of beauty and excellence. That particular character strength is very high for you and in the toilet for me.
Thought we work well together.
Exactly.
Needing these things, not my own my strength. But
yeah. And I do love being able also to incorporate some of this. It's called somatic coaching, but it's really looking at your nervous system. And it's really connecting the head, the gut, and the heart together, and not relying on usually just the head to make all decisions when your gut is screaming like, why are you doing this to me? And actually, I think that you have experience in that specifically. You don't end up sick because of what you're doing.
Yeah, when you're not living into your true self, you end up like me, throwing up 8 times in this because somebody is basically telling you something's not right. And you know what, Wendy, it was coaching with you that helped that. It really was. And so I think that I love your whole perspective on all of the strengths. And I love you reminding me that they don't suck, because I think more importantly, it's that we don't get a hall pass just because we're not great at something either. And that's what I love about the character strengths, is that I think sometimes personality assessments want to put us into a box. And as you said, we do these every 6 months to see where we've changed. Because there are certain seasons in our life that we are more focused on things.
Exactly.
Grow and changes people. And what I love that is nothing sends me over the wall more. And I know it's true when someone says, I am this, therefore.
Oh, no, it just, no. No. So I can use like a humor example. And we took the Via Strengths as a family, meaning my husband and Becca and Jake. And they were younger, and they've since revised theirs. But anyway, and I looked at the results, and humor was like first for me, and I think first or second for Jake, and in the top 3 for Becca. Okay, so we're all like humor. Craig, on the other hand, his is not one of his. Humor was like 25, or no, it wasn't that low. It's like 21. So it was a lesser strength for him, and he did not understand why I especially would try to diffuse with doing like stupid things. And it would drive him insane until I could show him and say, you know what? We need to now be sensitive to each other. We now need to have each other's perspective. If Jake says something goofy and you look at him like, ooh, what's wrong with you? That's not right. That's not fair. And at the same time, I learned that there are times when you just can't be funny.
I'm not sure what those times
These
are.
Moments and interjecting humor, not always the best thing to do. And so, no, it's not I am, therefore. It's I am, how do you work best together? How do you interact in a way that builds harmony and strength, as opposed to I am me, hear me roar, this is it. Because I think that's just, yeah. So
I think it's very
unhealthy.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what we say, we want everyone to be able to savor their life. That looks different for everybody. There's a model, there's frameworks, there are pillars. But how you interject that, I think just like the 24 character strengths are universal, I think our savor, I don't mean to make a direct comparison because that would be a little audacious, but anyway.
It's pretty much the way it is.
But I do think when you talk about self-care and gratitude and connection and all the 6 components, the 6 pillars of savor, you're still talking about something that's pretty universal, and you intertwine what works for you in that particular category. And I think these are very powerful tools to really help us live a life that we want to live.
Oh, I think on that note, that's so perfectly well said. What are 3 takeaways you would give people in regards to VIA character strengths as to why they're important and what they could do right now in their
life? Yeah, okay. So I really think that, let's see. First of all, I think people should definitely take the character strengths,
which we will link to. We will link to at the end of this video.
Yes, I really feel that you take them because it helps you to navigate through both the good times and the bad. Mm-hmm. It helps you to really accelerate in the good times. It helps you to really put the foot on the gas. And at the same time, leaning into your strengths when you have challenges. Mm-hmm. That's the way to go. It helps. Again, it keeps you, I think to some extent, it keeps you in the game. That's what I'm trying to say. And as we know, there are challenges. And actually, I think I always like to say that there's always challenges, but you want them to be speed bumps and not Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And I think that leaning into your strengths definitely does that. Also, I do think it really helps you to leverage opportunities. If you know that, let's say leadership is one of your really super strengths, find opportunities for leadership in your community, in your world, and make sure that you're creating a world. Because someone, say with leadership, they're not going to want to live in that silo by themselves
No,
because they're never going to live up to what their potential is. And there are always lots of opportunities. It may take some work and it may actually take creating them yourself, but there are opportunities. Also, having a business that is aligned with your strengths and values is critical. That's what helps the resiliency. Resiliency is what ultimately gets you through success. It's showing up day in and day out, whether you want to or not, and watching your business grow and having everything aligned is, I think, such an important thing. If someone truly, I don't mean to lean on leadership, but if this is really not something that you want to do, and it's not a super strength, then think about other ways, and maybe it's also just even a simple spin of, oh my God, I don't want to do any more TikTok reels, or they're not reels, they're Instagram reels, but whatever, you know what I'm saying. Maybe it's, I'm going to write, and maybe there's different forms to lean into, and there's no tool that is an absolute right or wrong. And there's different ways of using them. So I think that just having yourself aligned is so critically important. And these are just other tools to use down that road.
Yep. I love this. Thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
Thank you for talking to me. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me today. Not like we don't talk every day. This is tremendously valuable. Guys, we're going to link to the bottom, a link to the character strength assessment. It is just a free assessment to give you a report, but if you are looking to do something a little bit more in depth, maybe have more of an evaluation or an assessment of that report as it looks at your entire business, we're going to link out to an offer for that as well down below. It's just what we would almost call like a character strength audit, just something we can quickly look at and then look and just see, maybe leadership is low on your assessment and you have a team. And this helps you make figure out where that disconnect is. Because sometimes when you're doing something and you're like, I just suck at this. No, you don't suck at these things. Remember, it's that it's a lesser strength. And so maybe you need a coach to help you on that strength. Maybe we need to have a coach help you pivot maybe your business model and lean up a little bit, because this is just something that's not going to work for you. And knowing those, I wish I had known these things when I had started.
Why?
I wish I had known when I started, because I think I would have made better, smarter business decisions.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that knowing these things helps us make better, smarter business decisions.
I could not agree more. But that's why we're partners.
Yay. For so many reasons. All right, guys, until the next session, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating.
But only if you liked it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself.
You can learn more about purposeful podcasting on our website at serendipitousrebel.com.
And if you have topics you'd like to hear about, be sure to submit them on our website or DM us on social media.